Of All Things, Chapter 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Of All Things, by Robert C. Benchley. Chapter 1. The Social Life of the Newt. It is not generally known that the newt, although one of the smallest of our North American animals, has an extremely happy home life. It is just one of those facts which never get bruited about. I first became interested in the social phenomena of newt life early in the spring of 1913, shortly after I had finished my researches in sexual differentiation among amoeba. Since that time I have practically lived among newts, jotting down observations, making lantern slides, watching them in their work and in their play, and you may rest assured that the little rogues have their play, as who does not? Until, from much lying in a research posture on my stomach over the enclosure in which they were confined, I found myself developing what I feared might be rudimentary creepers. And so, late this autumn, I stood erect and walked into my house, where I immediately set about the compilation of the notes I had made. So much for the non-technical introduction. The remainder of this article bids fair to be fairly scientific. In studying the more intimate phases of newt life, one is chiefly impressed with the methods by means of which the males force their attentions upon the females, with matrimony as an object. For the newt is, after all, only a newt, and has his weaknesses just as any of the rest of us. And I, for one, would not have it different. There is little enough fun in the world as it is. The peculiar thing about a newt's courtship is its restraint. It is carried on, at all times, with a minimum distance of 50 paces, newt measure, between the male and the female. Some of the bolder males may now and then attempt to overstep the bounds of good sportsmanship and crowd in to 45 paces, but such tactics are frowned upon by the Rules Committee. To the eye of an uninitiated observer, the pair might be dancing a few of the more open figures of the minuet. The means employed by the males to draw the attention and win the affection of those of the opposite sex, females, are varied and extremely strategic. Until the valuable researches by Strudelhoff in 1887, in his Entwicklungsmechanik, no one had been able to ascertain just what it was that the male newt did to make the female see anything in him worth throwing herself away on. It had been observed that the most personally unattractive newt could advance to within 50 paces of a female of his acquaintance and, by some coup d'oeil, bring her to a point where she would, in no uncertain terms, indicate her willingness to go through with the marriage ceremony at an early date. It was Strudelhoff who discovered, after watching several thousand courting newts under a magnifying glass, questionable taste on his part, without doubt, but all is fair in pathological love, that the male, during the courting season, the season opens on the 10th of March and extends through the following February, leaving about 10 days for general overhauling and redecorating, gives forth a strange phosphorescent glow from the center of his highly colored dorsal crest, somewhat similar in effect to the flash of a diamond scarf pin in a red necktie. This glow, according to Strudelhoff, so fascinates the female with its air of elegance and indication of wealth that she immediately falls a victim to its lure. But the little creature, true to her sex instinct, does not at once give evidence that her morale has been shattered. She affects a coyness and lack of interest by hitching herself sideways along the bottom of the aquarium, with her head turned over her right shoulder away from the swain. A trained ear might even detect her whistling in an indifferent manner. The male, in the meantime, is flashing his gleamer frantically 2 blocks away, and is performing all sorts of attractive feats calculated to bring the lady newt to terms.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?